And away we go. Tuesday edition of the show. All across America, SportsMap Radio. Worldwide, the SportsMap Radio app. We got a lot to do over the next 3 hours. I'm glad you're with us for it. Weird day in sports. I'll explain as we go through the show. Just a bizarre news day. Looked like we were going to have some major Aaron Judge news to report as we came on the air, and then John Heyman said, "Whoops, my bad. I think I got myself out in front of it." And look, I respect John Heyman. I've interviewed John Heyman numerous times. He's really good at what he does, but let me tell you, if Aaron Judge doesn't wind up in San Francisco, John Heyman better never step foot anywhere near San Francisco again, because I don't know if the fan base will ever forgive him. The tweets were everywhere today. Congratulations, Aaron Judge is a San Francisco Giant. I mean, it was Dewey defeats Truman. I mean, that's essentially what it was today for San Francisco Giants fans who thought Aaron Judge was going to land there. And look, he may very well wind up there. We'll see. Who knows? By the time we get off the air tonight, that news might break. So you got to stick around just for the possibility of watching me self-destruct, self-immolate on camera. For those of you watching on the video stream, courtesy of Twitch, twitch.tv/JasonPage77. I even wore my Yankee sweatshirt for the show tonight, just in the hopes it might curry some favor with the baseball gods so that Aaron Judge may stay in New York as a Yankee. Because I got to admit, everything I'm hearing right now doesn't look good if you're a Yankee fan hoping that Aaron Judge returns. All right, let's get it started. 1-800-224-2004, 800-224-2004. You can hit me up on Twitter as well, at The Back Page. We're just getting started. It's Jason Page and the Cash In on SportsMap Radio. Coffee? What's up, Austin? Do you have brothers and sisters? Is she named after another city? Okay. So wait, is she named Ashton? It's an interesting name for a female. Ashton, I would think, would be more of a male name. Yeah. She older than you or younger? Okay. Well, we won't be on in Dallas tonight. Mavs game just started. Yep. Goodbye to our largest audience. Hey, did you bring in my business cards? No. They're in the car. You got them? They're in the car. Yeah? Car. Business cards. Car. They're still in the car? Got a live guest at 30 minutes from now. That's our 2-for-1. I was hoping to get a baseball guest for 8:40. Still holding out hope it might happen, but as of yet, no luck. Everybody's just in wait mode right now. Yeah, pretty much. I think thanks for being a part of it. A Tuesday edition of the Cash In, SportsMap Radio. I got to play golf tomorrow, and I haven't picked up the sticks in probably 2 months. So I got to go play 18 holes at PGA West tomorrow. The American Express Championships, which is the PGA Tour event held every year here in the greater Palm Springs area. They have their media day tomorrow, so the media gets to play the course and learn all the fun things about the tournament this year. So I gotta get up crack of dawn tomorrow and go play golf after doing this show tonight. I ought to be really good. Haven't swung a club in 2 months. Could you believe this? Can I just get into this for a second? I went to go buy golf clubs. I know this is totally a first world problem. Totally. I don't expect any sympathy. But I went today to go and try and buy golf pants because this time of year in Palm Springs, in the lovely Coachella Valley, it's actually quite cold in the morning, like high 40s, low 50s cold, which for here is really cold. And would you believe, I went to go buy golf pants today. Austin Rodriguez, our producer engineer working on the show today. I want you to guess the average price for golf pants. Now, I went to 2 different locations. How much do you think an average pair of golf pants costs? Very good. You're not far off. I mean, the high end was $120 and the low end was $80. So the average was around $100 for golf pants. I'm like, are you kidding me? It's almost like they gouged because they know it's chilly right now in the Coachella Valley. Like they said, hey, we're going to make these as expensive as possible because some yahoo's going to come in here and really need them. And you know what I did? I said, screw it. I'll be cold. I'll wear shorts tomorrow. Plus, I tried on a couple of pairs and they didn't fit because I'm too fat. So that's tomorrow and what I got to deal with. Dennis Bernstein is going to join us coming up later on in this hour. You can catch him on SiriusXM NHL Radio. He is the man who has the fourthperiod.com. It is his website, it is his baby, it is his passion, it is his love. Dennis Bernstein will talk hockey with us coming up in about 25 minutes here on the show. But we begin with Aaron Judge, and I think you have to. Because earlier today, it was being reported that a deal between Aaron Judge and the Giants was basically close to happening, close to being announced, and the numbers being floated. And I still can't get anything clear that says how many years, but now we're talking about $360 million. And last night we had Daryl Guru Johnson on the show. And when I told him I thought it would take at least $320 to get Judge, he kind of was like, really? I didn't think it'd be that much. No, it's going to cost that. And now you're hearing the number $360 million. And if 360, sorry, I'm having a mic here. Fix that. Let's see if I can fix that there. You hear me? Okay, there we go. If $360 million is where this price tag winds up, I wonder if the Yankees bow out. maybe that's a 9th year, which somehow gets it to that number. But if it's 8 years at $360 million, I can't even do that kind of math. Hey, Google, what's 360 divided by 8? See if it'll tell me here. Come on. Help me out here. No? Okay. Guess I'm not going to get that. So 360, it's 45. Thank you, Austin. $45 million you're talking about. And I don't think the Yankees are going there. I think the Yankees have probably hit their limit at this point. They've talked about 4 different offers that they've made for Aaron Judge. And when you start talking about 4 different offers made for Aaron Judge, it means they've gone probably as far as they're going to go. But do the Yankees have another gear? But then you see the news today that the Giants have gone out and made another free agent move, and that's bringing Mitch Haniger, who did a great job with the Seattle Mariners. That is a huge loss for Seattle. They go and sign Mitch Haniger today, which makes you wonder, do they think they're out? Are they starting to move on, life without Judge, because they don't think they're going to get him? Because why else would you go if you're the Giants and make a move for Mitch Haniger unless you knew that Judge was intending to sign somewhere else? Because the Yankees and Giants right now are essentially in waiting mode and not making any moves until they know what Judge is doing. Well, if the Giants are making moves that have, is it them giving a sign? Is it them waving the flag saying, hey, that's it? And I wonder if on some level they've gone to Aaron Judge and said, hey, 360, this is our offer, take it or leave it. And maybe they've started to move on. Who knows? No, it seems like a giant guessing game at this point. When you look at what's going on here in this free agency period, Brian Cashman was at a podium today, or Aaron Judge was at a podium today, and nobody seems to have any true grasp of what Aaron Judge is thinking. Aaron Judge's got the baseball world on a string right now. He owns this offseason. And did you see Time Magazine named him the Athlete of the Year? Yeah, Time Magazine named Aaron Judge their Athlete of the Year. So as if he needed any more clout in this offseason, Aaron Judge now has it. 1-800-224-2004, 1-800-224-2004. Hit me up on Twitter at the back page. But here's another question I ask. If Aaron Judge is getting this much this offseason, what on earth are they going to pay Shohei Ohtani next year? How much money is Shohei Ohtani going to be worth in the 2023 free agency market? Because whatever Judge gets, Ohtani's going to say, I want more. I've won an MVP. I'm an ace pitcher. And I'm one of the best hitters in the game. Now, what are you paying me? If Judge is getting $40 million a year, which is where I thought this thing would end up, 8 years, $320 million, Ohtani's going to easily get 45. And Ohtani, I think, is younger than Judge, if I'm not mistaken. How old? Judge is going to be 31 when the next season gets underway. Ohtani is 28. So next year, he'll be 29 during the season. So next offseason, this time, he'll be 29 years old. And his salary this year was $5.5 million. What a bargain. When you go and look at the World Series odds for next year, we're all into the betting thing on this show. For any of you that are new to the program, just tuning in, we're all about the sports betting. If it's not legal in your state, I'm sorry, it will be soon. And a lot of people that where it's not legal, they're doing it somewhere anyway, whether it's the offshore books or the local guy down the street. You know what I'm saying? The Astros right now are your favorite to win next year's World Series. And I want to almost screen capture these World Series odds for next year because I'm curious to see how they change the moment Aaron Judge decides where he's going. Like right now, the Astros are the favorite at plus 550. The Dodgers are next at plus 600. The Mets are third at plus 900. And the Yankees are plus 950, along with the Braves at plus 950. So tied for fourth best odds. I wonder how this changes if Judge goes elsewhere. And there's been some talk today, which I found fascinating, this idea that the Yankees might do a complete retool of the franchise. And that doesn't mean break it down, or it doesn't mean a rebuild, but sort of retool if Judge decides to go to San Francisco. And by that, I mean, I think they get a lot younger. They go get some kids. You know, they go bring up some of these kids from the farm system, the Anthony Volpes of the world. And the Yankees could really reshape the image of the franchise if Judge were to leave. I'm not saying it's a good thing if Aaron Judge leaves. I think it'd be a disaster for this franchise if you lose the guy who just set the home run record for the American League, and frankly, in the age of PEDs, is the first guy clean to break the 61 home runs by Roger Maris in 1961. I think it'd be a catastrophe for the Yankees to lose Aaron Judge. And maybe they'd rip up that contract they just gave Brian Cashman to keep him with the team through 2026. You cannot lose Aaron Judge. Can't fire owners, can't fire players, but you can fire managers, you can fire general managers. And if they screw it up and lose Aaron Judge, well, somebody should be held accountable. 1-800-224-2004, 800-224-2004. You want to weigh in? Go ahead. Tweet at me as well at The Back Page. Again, hit me up on Twitter at The Back Page. All right, our live betting game of the night is in progress. It's on over my left shoulder. I had to make sure which shoulder it was over. We'll go and check in on that. Dennis Bernstein will join us to talk some NHL. Talk to him every month on the show. Get some NHL conversation with Dennis coming up about 17 minutes from now. Stick around. More to do on the Cash In on SportsMap Radio. Earlier today, Aaron Boone on the Yankees Hot Stove Show on the Yes Network basically telling you what the Yankees know as it relates to Aaron Judge. Take a listen.
Yankees manager Aaron Boone is still waiting on the decision of Aaron Judge, whether he will stay in the Bronx or sign somewhere else. Boone had the luxury of putting Judge's name into the lineup card ever since he's been at the helm. And just a short time ago, he spoke with Jack and Meredith at the winter meetings in San Diego.
Thanks, Bob. As we know, Aaron Judge has been dominating the news cycle since winter meetings have started. Aaron, what has this been like for you as you wonder what this decision might be?
Yeah, exactly that. It's been a little bit stressful, kind of waiting to see, and obviously, you know, it's big news once it comes, and then, you know, where do we go next and all that. So, yeah, it's been kind of stressful waiting it out and hoping for a good ending.
Brian Cashman sat in that seat yesterday, and he said Aaron Judge is driving the bus on this, and that the Yankees have to be patient and allow him to make a decision. Where do things stand right now as far as you're concerned with Judge and the Yankees?
Yeah, I don't know. Just waiting. You know, obviously he's an amazing person, an amazing player, and yeah, we're just kind of waiting to see, you know, what the final decision is, and then we'll plan accordingly.
I mean, everything you need to know, you got in that statement from Aaron Boone. They have no idea right now. And the fact is, the lack of communication here would leave me very troubled if I'm a Yankee fan. When you hear those sorts of, I'm nervous. We're thinking about what we do if he doesn't come along, moving on. It all tells me they think he's leaving. I think they're preparing themselves for the worst. And I'm just frankly shocked that we're at a point right now where the Yankees might actually lose this guy. I mean, this isn't, I don't want to say this is, you know, the Red Sox shipping off Babe Ruth to the Yankees for, you know, a bucket of baseballs and some cash. I'm not saying that, but this is pretty damn bad. I mean, this is as bad as you can get. This is DEFCON 1 if you're the Yankees and you lose this guy. I mean, this would send shockwaves through that organization and through baseball, that the Yankees weren't able to keep one of their own. This was Judge also earlier in the day on the rumors that Judge, this was Boone earlier in the day, on the rumors that Judge had decided to go play for San Francisco.
Yeah, I just got out of the shower and was getting dressed, so I called Cash and said, what's going on? He said nothing. So,
all right, you can't hear him. You can't hear him very well there. Let's get better audio of him if we can.
I really don't. It's been an uncomfortable, hour, but I have nothing.
You talked to him since we talked to you yesterday?
No, I have not. No.
What was the reaction like among the team when you saw the report, and then you saw the report pulled? Like, what was the reaction?
So I actually was in the shower getting ready to go through my media stuff, and so I was up in my room, and then went down to meet Zillow in the room, and just a lot of unknown right now.
And at that point, by the way, it should be mentioned that what was told to Aaron Boone was that nothing new had happened. This report that John Heyman basically put out saying that Aaron Judge was going to the San Francisco Giants wasn't true. So this has not been a good day for John Heyman. Let's just say that. And the guys on MLB Network were trying to tell some great stories about him. That's all fine and good. But if you're John Heyman There's always this rush. I say this all the time in the media. There's always a rush to be first rather than to be right. There's always this rush to get it first. And too many times it winds up being a question of being wrong. And I'll throw one more thing on that. It may very well turn out that Aaron Judge winds up in San Francisco. I mean, there's the old saying, where there's smoke, there's fire. And right now it feels like there's a lot of smoke as it pertains to Aaron Judge. That he's going to land in San Francisco. And you know what? All the credit to the Giants. If they indeed offered him $360 million, they deserve to get him. And if you're the Yankees and you're not willing to match that, well, you know what? You deserve whatever comes to you. And these two teams are going to meet to start the baseball season. Yeah, Yankees and Giants. Yankees-Giants opens the Major League Baseball season on the 2023 schedule. I mean, that's wild. And you could have Aaron Judge. Coming back to Yankee Stadium to start the season as a San Francisco Giant. Oh, I might have to fly back east just to go see that game. Watch Aaron Judge crush the Yankees in the opening series of the year. If I'm the Yankees, I'd walk him every time he's up. Make somebody else beat him. Watch him get frustrated with that. Unbelievable. And you know what? I have to be honest. I do not begrudge. I'm not trying to rhyme here. I don't begrudge the Judge whatsoever as a Yankee fan if he decides to go to San Francisco. As somebody pointed out a couple of days ago on Twitter, and I think accurately so, this idea that, well, if Aaron Judge leaves New York, he's not serious about winning a World Series. The Giants have won 3 World Series, I think, since the Yankees won their last one. So I don't know, how crazy it is, the idea that, well, if you're going to San Francisco, you're not serious about winning. If anything, it tells me he is serious about winning. If anything, it tells me he wants to go back home and be close to his family. If anything, it tells me that for him, he's willing to sacrifice his personal statistics, because anybody who knows anything about baseball right now knows you go to San Francisco, your home run numbers are going to drop. He's going to get crushed in that ballpark. 62 turns into 40 really fast, and 35 really fast. There is no short right field porch at Oracle Park. But at the same time, he gets to play against the Colorado Rockies X number of times a year. Get to play in that ballpark. Get to play at Wrigley Field. Maybe the wind is blowing out. Arizona, the ball flies. Going to be fascinating. Like I said, it could happen during our show tonight. If not, maybe it happens tomorrow. We'll have to wait and see. Most people think by the end of the week, Aaron Judge will decide where he is going to play baseball, in all likelihood, for the rest of his career. 1-800-224-2004, 800-224-2004. Hit me up on Twitter. Always happy to do it. At the back page. Again, hit me up there on Twitter if you want to get in touch with the show. At the back page. Dennis Bernstein will join us coming up in a few minutes. Get some thoughts with him on the NHL, our weekly spot with Dennis. See what's going on around the league. This Carey Price story is a pretty interesting one. I want to get his thoughts on it. So we'll get to that and a whole bunch more. Stick around. Opening hour of the Cash In. I'm Jason Page at SportsMap Radio. Let me know when there's a minute left. Thank you. Thank you, sir. All along on this Monday edition of the show, baseball's winter meetings are underway, well underway, and there is no shortage. Glad to have you with us on this Tuesday edition of the show. The telephone number, 1-800-224-2004, 800-224-2004. Feel free to tweet at me as well. On Twitter, at The Back Page. Love to catch up with this guy every now and then. He's a busy man. Dennis Bernstein does a terrific job on the NHL, which we haven't talked about with him in a few weeks, so he joins us from thefourthperiod.com, also SiriusXM's NHL Radio, and Dennis Bernstein is our guest in our 2-for-1 tonight on the show. So, would you consider, how far ahead of schedule would you consider the New Jersey Devils at this point with where they are at 21-4, this insane run that they're on?
Well, JP, when you draft two centers first overall, at some point the team needs to be good. And now the team is very good. So I would say that they should have had progression over last season, but not to play 827-point percentage hockey. Like, they are ahead of schedule with a 39 goal differential, 11-1 on the road, and they're 8-1-1 in the last 10. They're ahead of schedule. I had Carolina winning the division. Right now they got a 10-point lead. Carolina has a game in hand, although they're playing tonight in Anaheim. So, yeah, they're definitely ahead of schedule. They are now going to be in the mix for the division, for the Metropolitan Division, especially if they're cousins across the river. And the Rangers, even though they won the other night, they'll get it together. Like, this is a legit team because of their strength down the middle.
Is there anything in what you've seen from them that would give you some pause that this is an aberration of some sort?
Yeah, I think you have to look at the goaltending. And Vitek Vanacek has done everything they asked him to and more to come in from Washington. But at this point, he might win the Vezina. He's 12-2-1, 922 save percentage, 210 goals against. Like, is he going to regress to what Vitek Vanacek normally is, which is not those numbers? So I would have a little concern about the goaltending, but the defense is solid. Those fans that chanted fire the coach after 2 games, like they had to eat a lot of crow. So I think that's the only thing, JP, that I will look at, because this is definitely a better team. Like, did I think they were going to be a 40-point improvement? No. I look at the goaltending and I say, okay, is this guy really going to stand up all season? I'm not sure. If he gets injured, you have to revert back to Mackenzie Blackwood, who always seems to be hurt, and Akira Schmidt, who, even though his numbers are sterling, you can't really trust him. So I think they can stay up. I look at that goaltending. If they regress to the mean, then at that point it's going to be a more contentious race in the Metro.
Move from the Eastern Coast and the Eastern Conference to the West Coast. If it's a surprise to some that the Devils have gotten off to this big of a start, how big of a surprise is it to see the Seattle Kraken doing what they're doing?
It's a real big surprise. It's probably a bigger surprise to be second in the division. They're 6 points behind Vegas. They have 3-point games in hand. Yeah, I think it's a huge. And, they look at Martin Jones, JP, and they say, okay, this guy's having a revelation when they look at his record. But when you look at his actual statistics in the net, he's not much better than he was in Philadelphia last season. But that shows that when you put a better defensive team in front of you, all of a sudden you start winning games when you make those saves. So nobody saw this coming. You thought improvement. You thought the offense would be better. They get Burakovsky from the Colorado Avalanche. They had Bjorkstrand, but 8-1-1 on the road. I think it's a situation, JP, where I think teams are still taking Seattle lightly this early in the season because they're 500 at home. They're 7-5-2 in Seattle. They're 8-1-1 on the road. I think that teams are saying, okay, this is an expansion team coming in. It's a second-year expansion team, and they kind of look like the first-year Vegas Golden Knights at this point. So it's interesting. It's a great start. I don't know if it's a very good team. I want to see when this team gets hit with injuries, the goaltending worsens a little bit because both Grubauer and Jones have not been good over the last couple of seasons. So I think the jury's still out on them. I still think that L.A., Edmonton, and Calgary can surpass them for second. But right now, Vegas looks like a clear-cut best in the Pacific right now.
I was talking about this with somebody the other day, and a friend of mine went to a game and sent me a video. Are the Vegas Golden Knights the greatest show in hockey right now? And I'm not even just talking about from the on-ice perspective in terms of wins and losses and the fact that, here they are again having a great start to the season, 19-7, 39 points, all of that great stuff. And it's funny, their home record isn't even that great at just 7-5. But in terms of the best show on ice, are they providing really the best entertainment in hockey?
Yeah, because I think, JP, that they put entertainment in front of hockey because they know the competition in that city for the entertainment dollar, not the sports dollar even, because the Raiders aren't really knocking anybody. They're not going to make the playoffs. So I think that's what they look at because they have to compete with other shows on the Strip at 7:30 on a Tuesday and a Thursday and a Saturday. That's what they look for. So I think their mindset going in was going to be very different anyway. Yes, they laid on thick when they have the night facing a bad guy on the ice before the game and the drum corps and the cheerleaders in the stands. But I think the mindset was always going to be, because, Jason, I don't think they ever thought they would be this good to start. So they said, okay, how are we going to get people in the building, butts in the seats, educate people about hockey? That's what they've done. They've leaned in and they've embraced the entertainment. And you have to chuckle because people outside of Vegas, when they see the pregame presentation, during the Stanley Cup playoffs, they're the only team where the broadcasts show the actual pregame ceremonies. So, yeah, they're doing it right. It's a great arena. I've been there millions of times. You can stay at the Park MGM, walk across the street 100 yards into the building. It's set up so much to win. They've done a great job at embracing that city and galvanizing the fan base in Vegas.
Let me ask you, before I want to ask you about the Rangers, who you touched on a little while ago in concert with the story about the Devils. But I want to ask you about the Carey Price story, because I haven't talked much about it. And for as much as we talked about the insensitivity and the way Kyrie Irving handled this whole thing with the Nets that has been talked about ad nauseum now for several weeks, as frankly it should be. There's this story about Carey Price, and it's not a good look for him that, he's basically lived in Montreal for 15 years and couldn't have possibly known about the femicide that killed 14 women at Polytechnique 33 years ago, on this day. And that he decided to post his opposition to new gun control legislation that survivors of that tragedy have called for. How bad of a situation, how bad of a PR situation is it for him, for the organization? And I mean, is there some sort of parallel or comparison to be made to the Kyrie Irving situation and sort of the way the organization has to go about handling this?
Well, I don't think so, Jason, because he's not playing. I think there's something that the PR hit mitigates because he's not. If he had to go into every building in Canada right now and play goal, I think that would be a mess. That would be difficult for the team to handle. It would be a huge distraction. I think the fact that he's not playing and he's injured and he may not play again, I think it kind of I don't want it lessens the impact of what he said because he's not in the news all the time. You hadn't talked about Gary Price the entire season. Now we're talking about him. Now he insists and he's taking a step back. He says he knew about the occurrence with respect to Polytechnique before he made that posting. It's sensitivity. It's not reading the room. It's not knowing. When you get involved in politics, Jason, and you're an athlete, you should stop getting involved in politics. It's as simple as that. So I think it's lessened because I can't really call the Canadians for doing that. He's not around the team. I'm sure he didn't check in with the team before he made that posting. It's wrong. He should be contrite and apologize and move on from it. He made a mistake, and that's the problem. That athletes who are used to perfection, when they make mistakes, they don't own it. They continue to double down and triple down, and that's the first thing I would do if I was Carey Price. I apologize. I really didn't realize what I was saying at this point in time. So I think that it doesn't affect the team because he's not playing on the team right now.
There isn't any sort of situation where you would see them cutting him, would you?
No, I don't think so because it doesn't matter because the salary, nobody's going to claim him. And the salary, they would have to go to his morals part of his contract to say he violated that. And I don't think that what he did with the posting is going to justify breaking your morals contract. They're not going to waive. If they waive him, he's injured. Nobody's going to pick him up. He's making $11 million a year. So they're kind of stuck there. I think that once the news cycle goes 48 hours out, people will start to forget about it and separate this from this situation. But I don't think he's in any danger of losing his contract. I don't think, given that he's injured and he makes so much money, that he's going to be a target to be released. But if you're injured, I don't even think you can release a player in the NHL if he's injured.
Talk to me about the Rangers here for a second. We were getting into it on the Devils and obviously the team on the other side of the Hudson and the Rangers, and obviously it's been a struggle for them. Are you surprised the struggles have lasted this long, and now do we have to start to accept the fact that this just is what the Rangers are this year?
Yeah, because when your goalie is all-world and he stops every puck last season, and you make it to the conference final, and this year he's just good or pretty good, that's what happens. So it's no surprise to me. They have not changed their game. And plus, Panarin didn't score a goal for, a month? So that's part of the issue. So when this team doesn't score and your goalie isn't all-world, you're going to be under 500 at home. It's not surprising to me at all. Will it change? I don't know, to be frank, because I don't think he's going to revert back to the Vezina winning trophy goalie over the next 55 games. So they're in trouble, Jason. It's as simple as that. They don't have a lot of depth. The two big-time wingers that they drafted at the top of the draft, Lafreniere and Kakko, still haven't produced the way they thought they would. I'm not shocked they are where they are because, again, if your goalie isn't all-world, this team is going to struggle, and they're struggling. They're 12-10-5 over the last, to start. And they needed a miracle the other night to rally to get a win. So, yeah, they're in trouble at this point in time unless they make a big trade, maybe a Patrick Kane at the deadline or something like that. But right now, they're going to go as the goalie goes, and the goalie's going okay. And that's why you see this team is just an average team at this point.
The Dallas Stars have been really good. Obviously, you look at the standings, and right now they're leading in the Central Conference, 14-6, 33 points on the year. I don't know how many people knew who Jason Robertson was before the year started. A lot of people seem to know who he is right now.
The fringe fan didn't know Jason Robertson. The real fan knew Jason Robertson, knew he was dangerous, knew he scored over 30 goals on their top line. But what he's doing right now, Jason, nobody saw this coming. This is otherworldly, his goal production. He's big, and people don't know him. He's 6'3", 200 pounds, second-round draft pick, great draft by this team. And he's part of the reason Dallas is right there. The other guy is Jamie Benn, who's really struggled over the last couple of seasons. People said it was past his prime. He's making $9 million a year. He's too slow. He's too old. He's really galvanized the team as well. But Jason Robertson is on a Connor McDavid-like scoring streak at this point in time. So, yeah, the true fan would know. The fringe fan is getting to know Jason Robertson. This is an elite goal scorer.
Are the Rangers the biggest disappointment so far of this hockey season? What, if not, who is?
I would say them and probably Columbus.
Yeah, I was just looking at Columbus. I was just going to actually ask you about them.
Yeah, because of Johnny Gaudreau. Yeah, Johnny Gaudreau, you pay him all that money. Now, Zach Werenski's out. He's the best defenseman. He's out for the season with a shoulder injury. I would say the fact that the Rangers are out of a playoff spot right now is a little bit more surprising. You didn't think Columbus was going to make win the division in the Metro. You didn't think they would be this bad, minus 29 goal differential, not getting a save from anybody. I think that would be the biggest disappointment because there was enhanced, expectations with Johnny coming in, paying him all that money. And Johnny certainly thought. Do you think Johnny thought they would be last in the East at this point? Of course not. So I think at this point, I think that's what you look at. But it's a situation, Jason, when you can't get saves from your goaltender, it doesn't matter about the rest of the team. It deflates the team. It changes momentum in the game. I've seen it here in Los Angeles where they're winning and they're 500 team, but their goaltending's been awful. Goaltending is so key. You can't overlook that. You can't think, okay, we can maybe get by with Merzlikins or Korpisalo who's been injured. I would say Rangers 1, Columbus 2 with respect to disappointments. The rest of the bottom feeders, I didn't expect a lot from the lesser teams in the league this season.
Dennis Bernstein, check him out, thefourthperiod.com. Catch him on SiriusXM NHL radio as well. Good to talk with you, my friend. Like I said, we've got Seattle Kraken AHL hockey coming to my hometown, my new hometown here in Palm Springs. They're opening up the new arena, not this weekend, I think, but the following weekend. I will be there, and looking forward to seeing the future of the Kraken here in the Coachella Valley.
Nothing wrong with fresh ice in the desert, Jason. Enjoy it, bud. Great talking.
Thank you. Good talking to you, my friend. Dennis Bernstein joining us on the show. Okay, let's come back. Wrap up the hour next. All right. All right. Hiccups. You guys have an AHL team in Houston, don't you? Oh, really? Oh, really? I didn't know that. Did anybody go to the games? Oh, I wonder why they left. Yeah. Oh, interesting. Okay. Why, you like hockey? Oh, cool. All right, getting set to put the wraps on hour number 1. We are guest-free as of now in hour number 2, and that means the phone lines will be open. 1-800-224-2004, 800-224-2004. Hit us up on Twitter at The Back Page. Hey, if you haven't done so yet, go and check out playfortickets.com. It is the place to go for all things trying to win a trip to the NFL's biggest game in Glendale, Arizona this February. Here's what you do. Go to playfortickets.com. It's free to play, free to sign up, free to join. All you got to do is go to playfortickets.com, click on the Super Pick 7 button. It says play now. You click that, and then you're ready to go. Here's what you do. Every Sunday of the NFL season, including the playoffs, you have a chance to win. And it couldn't be easier. All you do is pick the correct side and totals on Sunday for 7 games. That's it. If you're right, you're going to win 2 tickets to the NFL's biggest game this February in Glendale, Arizona, plus put $50,000 cash in your pocket. Again, playfortickets.com. It's called the Super Pick 7 contest. Airfare, hotel included, $50,000 cash, and a trip to the NFL's biggest game. 21 and over to play. Terms and conditions apply. Playfortickets.com. That's how we wrap up this hour of the show. Stick around. We didn't do any live betting. We'll have to do it in the next hour with the Nuggets and the Dallas Mavericks. Stick around. Plenty more to do. I'm Jason Page. The Cash In rolls along on this Tuesday on SportsMap Radio. stream. This is what you get with Omaha Steaks. Oh, look at this. Oh, can we just do an Omaha Steaks ad right now? Look at that. That is insane. Those things are massive. That's like a Bigfoot. There's 4 of them in there?
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. Look at those steaks. Oh, I got to go back on the air. Oh, that looks amazing. Is that dinner tomorrow? Okay. Hour number 2 of the show on a Tuesday. Good to be with you. SportsMap Radio and the SportsMap Radio app. If you're listening to the show, whether streaming or listening on the radio or whatever, you may hear ads for Omaha Steaks. I got to tell you, I'm not just, they're not just advertising on the show. I eat the food. I'm a client, I guess you could say. I'm not only a president, I'm also the client. We just got a whole batch of Omaha Steaks in that we ordered here at the Page Estate. And let me tell you, if you have not taken advantage of it yet, go to omahasteaks.com. They have 50% off site-wide. And they were giving you $30 off at checkout with my promo code CASHIN. They've now upped it to $40 off at checkout with my promo code CASHIN. So if you didn't have a reason to go there before, they're practically giving this stuff away when you consider how good it is and the value for your buck. The holidays are here. You've got people coming over. You got to entertain. You got to send gifts to people. Send them the gift of steak. My God. It doesn't get any better. omahasteaks.com, 50% off site-wide. And again, use my promo code at checkout, CASHIN, CASHIN, and you get $40 off on top of the 50% off site-wide. Minimum purchase may be required on that, so make sure to check that out before you do it. 1-800-224-2004, 800-224-2004 is the phone number. Hit me up on Twitter as well, at The Back Page. Again, on Twitter, at The Back Page. Austin, you a big steak eater? See, I should send you some steak. We should send you some steak for the holidays or something like that. But you don't cook it, do you? Somebody else in that house is cooking, right? Yeah, you'd burn the house down, of course. All right, plenty to do in this hour. Trouble in paradise when it comes to Odell Beckham Jr. and the Cowboys? We got to talk about that. A lot of NFL news to get to. That's why I stopped right there. You didn't say 20, you didn't say 10, so I had a feeling it was close. So I just stopped right there. And said 10. It's all right. Yeah, it's all right. Don't worry about it. Oh, you're bringing me more? What we got? Let's see it. Show me some deliciousness. Come here. Oh, wrong one. We're just showing off the meat on the video stream right now. It's great.
Some bacon wrapped boneless pork chops.
Wow. Those look amazing.
I love pork chops. Wow. I will buy it.
Ooh, look at these. look at those. Oh, my goodness. Bacon-wrapped pork chops. Are you kidding? Oh, what is there? Like a hook in there? A metal hook?
Skewer.
Oh, it's a skewer? Wow, that looks good. Wow. Whew.
Cook them with an apple on it.
No apple. No apple. We don't need to get too cute with it.
Apple. Absolutely apple.
No apple. Ugh. Yeah, I cannot get a single baseball person to reply to me right now. It's crazy. Berry Bloom. Try Berry Bloom. Too loud, babe. We continue with the second hour of the show. Good to have you with us. The telephone number, 1-800-224-2004, 800-224-2004. On Twitter, at the back page. We already talked hockey in this last hour. We spoke with our buddy Dennis Bernstein from thefourthperiod.com and SiriusXM, NHL Radio. Got some thoughts with him. Coming up in about 13 minutes, we'll do some live betting on the NBA live betting game of the night on the show, and that is the game taking place in the NBA, which is at the half. Dallas leads Denver 64-58 on the road. Mavericks getting 15 in the first half from Luka. Let's see. Aaron Gordon, 17 in the first half for the Nuggets. Jokic has 13 at the half for the Nuggets. It's Christian Wood doing. Christian Wood's got 8 off the bench for the Mavericks. I just want to see Christian. I want to see more Christian Wood. I get that you got to have guys off the bench who can do some things for you, but I'd love to see him getting more action. I'd rather see him in the starting lineup, quite honestly. And I get that Dwight Powell doesn't play all that much, and it's not who starts the game, it's who ends the game, and Christian Wood tends to be on the floor late in games as opposed to a Dwight Powell, but I'd just like to see more of Christian Wood. I think he's got the goods. I think he's a pretty good player. How'd the Rockets let him get away, by the way? And it's not like the Rockets are, this abundance and wealth of talent. How did the Rockets let Christian Wood get away? I don't know. Guess I need to pay closer attention to the Houston Rockets. So we're not on in Dallas tonight, so unfortunately our Dallas audience is going to miss out on this because they're all listening to the Mavericks beat the Nuggets through the first 24 minutes of that game. But I have said from the start that I was not a fan of Odell Beckham Jr. to the Cowboys. I talked about it last night on the show with our buddy Daryl Guru Johnson from 95.7 The Game in San Francisco. He's one of the biggest Cowboy fans I know. And I've said from the beginning, I don't think this team needs Odell Beckham Jr. in order to win. I think they can win without him. I think they are an immensely talented team. It's a question of whether or not you believe in Dak Prescott as being the type of quarterback that can win in the postseason. And so far, the verdict is no. But we're about to basically see the Cowboys go to the postseason, arguably with the best team that they've had in the Dak Prescott era. So the lack of excuses, the bevy of excuses that you would get from year to year as to why this team hasn't been able to win, a lot of them are by the wayside. It is a contending team from a defensive standpoint. It's not as good as the 49ers defense, but it's a good defensive team. And to me, if you are this, Dallas Cowboys franchise, I think you have all the pieces in place to potentially go to a Super Bowl. I don't know if anybody's beating Kansas City or Buffalo or Cincinnati out of the NFC. I don't know if anybody is. But in terms of getting out of the NFC and at least getting yourself into a position to play in the Super Bowl in that one and done, that one game situation where anything can happen and oftentimes does, I wouldn't bet against Dallas or San Francisco, and I certainly couldn't bet against Philadelphia given what they've accomplished, even though I'm not a believer. I can understand why some people are. Matter of fact, guy who see the TV behind me? That's a new TV that we just got for our condo. And that TV was put up today by a Philadelphia Eagles fan. How do I know? The guy had it tattooed on his forearm. And then proceeded to want to talk to me the entire time he was here installing the TV about those same Philadelphia Eagles. Because he saw the sign for the show sitting in our living room. Because right now we're hosting the show from home. It's our temporary studio until we get into a permanent space. But I had to hear all about the Eagles. So I know he was a big Philadelphia Eagles fan. But when you look at those three teams, they have the best chance of coming out of the NFC right now and representing the conference in the Super Bowl. And I think the Cowboys can do it without Odell Beckham Jr. Now, I get the idea that by getting him, it means Buffalo doesn't get him. It means the Giants don't get him. And to some degree, I can understand the logic if you are the Dallas Cowboys on this idea that, if Odell Beckham Jr. were to land there, it means he can't land with one of those teams and help them. But what if Odell Beckham Jr. can't help anybody this year? The story today that's emerged that I think has some people sort of scratching their heads is the idea that Odell Beckham Jr. may not be able to help anybody this year. Not the Giants, not the Bills, not the Cowboys, because there's no real definitive word as to whether or not he's going to be on the field. His torn left ACL from the Super Bowl last year reportedly has not progressed enough to ensure he would play before mid-January. That's according to ESPN's Ed Werder. And you might be signing him, whether you're the Giants, Cowboys, or Bills, just for next season. And if you're the Cowboys, I don't think you make that move. That, essentially gives you no benefit until next year. So, Cowboys owner Jerry Jones, Beckham went through a physical on Monday, met with the Cowboys owner, even talked to his family, and then Beckham spent the night with Micah Parsons and Trayvon Diggs at the Dallas Mavericks game against the Suns. Jones sounded very non-committal during his appearance on 105.3 The Fan in Dallas on Tuesday, but he did say Beckham playing this season is paramount to a deal possibly getting done without ruling it out altogether. So essentially he's saying if we can't get something definitive that Odell Beckham Jr. is going to play this year, then we're not signing him. And I have to imagine that's disappointing to Odell Beckham Jr. if he was hoping that Dallas was going to be his ultimate destination. Quote, it's a lot different if you play one play or if you played or are available for a week and that week be the Super Bowl week than if he's available the next week, said Jones. And so everything in between, I would say that's a point of discussion. A player's own belief of where he is and becoming ready to play is real big. But ultimately, it doesn't sound like it's up to Beckham whether or not he is ready to play. isn't the decision ultimately doctors and physicians who have to make the determination whether or not he is capable of playing prior to the Super Bowl? I mean, let me ask you something. If you're a fan of the Cowboys, Bills, or Giants, and the word is Odell Beckham won't be ready to play until potentially the second week of the postseason, are you going and signing him right now? Hell, you got to get to that point. Now, in the case of the Bills, they're not even going to play the first week of the postseason because they're going to win their division anyway. So they're likely going to be looking at a bye in the first week of the playoffs. So there's a chance that you get 1 week with Odell Beckham Jr., 2 weeks with Odell Beckham Jr. at most. What kind of chemistry are you going to have between him, the other receivers, the quarterback? How much is he going to be able to practice between now and then? There's so many questions that have to be answered. It sounds like to me, if what you're hearing from the Cowboys is correct, there's a chance Odell Beckham Jr. doesn't play anywhere this year. Cowboys reportedly have $6.3 million in salary cap room. That's enough to add Beckham. But a multi-year deal, that's a much more problematic situation for them as it relates to the cap. Jones said, I just think this is an opportunity that is rare because of his availability. But one way or the other, there's not a failure here. I'm talking about the actual signing or not signing. There's not disappointment here. If this thing works, Jerry Jones says, it will improve this team now, will improve it this year. If we don't have that, then we're in a positive situation as well. So he's making it very clear. He's not signing Odell Beckham Jr. for what he could give them next year or the year after. He's looking for immediate impact. And if OBJ can't give him that, Odell Beckham Jr. is not going to wind up in Dallas. So sorry, Dallas fans, you may have just had the rug pulled out from under you by your own owner. Because all he did was talk about how he wanted to bring in Odell Beckham Jr. And he got all Cowboy Nation fans' hearts into a place where they were counting on the fact that OBJ was coming to Big D. Instead of taking the cautious approach of, hey, let's sit down with him, let's find out when he's going to be able to play. Instead of all of that, you had Jerry Jones going off at the mouth and getting Cowboy fans into a tizzy about the fact that Odell Beckham Jr. was going to be able to come and play for them, and now it turns out he may not play for you at all, ever. But what happens if he goes to the Giants? And Giants physicians come up with a different conclusion. And now he's playing for them before the end of the regular season. And he impacts their roster in a big way. Same thing with Buffalo or anywhere else he decides to go. And you wonder if those three teams decide not to sign him, if he winds up going anywhere else, or if he just sits out the rest of the year and waits till next year. I don't know what his mindset is. I don't know if anybody knows. It's OBJ. I think there's a lot of teams out there that would sign him tonight, even if he couldn't play this year. I think there's a number of teams that would go and sign him right now, even if they knew they weren't going to have him for a single down this year. And you got to remember, the list of teams who he could impact this year is actually quite slim, because you got to look at the number of teams that actually have a shot to make the playoffs and then actually advance in the postseason. So the number of teams that OBJ actually helps is actually quite small. I can't wait to see what the hell happens. 1-800-224-2004, 800-224-2004. You can tweet at the show. Send it to me at the back page. Again, on Twitter, at the back page. Our live NBA betting game of the night. We'll get into it in a couple of minutes. The Nuggets and the Dallas Mavericks in Denver. Tell you what's going on there. See if we can give you a live pick. We gave you two last night. They were both winners. Winners! So stick around. We got a lot more to do. Glad to have you with us on this Tuesday edition of The Cash-In on SportsMap Radio. Bum 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 bum. Bum bum bum. Bum 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 bum. Bum. I like this beat. It's a good beat. One 800-224-2004, 800-224-2004. Hit me up on Twitter at the back page. So Jerry Jones is, to me, sounding like somebody who's very non-committal when it comes to the idea of signing Odell Beckham Jr. And I think at this point you have to wonder if anybody signs Odell Beckham Jr. when you hear the thoughts about what's going on with the with the left ACL of Odell Beckham Jr. in terms of his recovery time. It doesn't sound like he has recovered to the point. It doesn't sound to me like he's recovered to the point where he's going to be able to contribute enough this year that it's worth it for Jerry Jones to sign him. So you're right back where you started if you're a Cowboys fan, which, by the way, I think is perfectly fine. I think the Cowboys can win certainly the NFC Championship without Odell Beckham Jr., and I think they'll be in the mix when it comes to the Super Bowl. I think this is a team that's just going to keep getting better and growing. It's a confident group. They had the loss in Green Bay, that bad loss in Green Bay, which could set a lot of teams back. They came right back the next week and won. Took care of the Giants. Mollywopped the Colts on Sunday night. And yeah, I get it. They let the Colts hang around probably longer than they should. But you know what? It happens with every team. There are no flawless teams in this league. There are no flawless teams right now. All right, our NBA live betting game of the night. The Dallas Mavericks in Denver taking on the Nuggets. It is Denver 69, Dallas 67, 8:54 to go in the third quarter. The game over on TNT. Dallas going off at plus 164 on the money line right now and plus 3.5. Your total 230.5. If I had to put a bet on anything right now, I'd probably put it on the over in this game. 230.5 is the number. I'll go over. So that's our first live bet of the night. 230.5. Take the over. If you can get it right now on the live betting on whatever your site of choice is, it's probably going to be somewhere around that same number. That's what FanDuel has it at. 230.5. Take the over. That's our first live bet of the night. We'll keep an eye on that game, and maybe I'll come up with something else to throw in. By the way, tomorrow night on the show, it's a Wednesday edition of the Cash-In, and that means we'll have our early peek ahead at the lines for Week 14 in the NFL. Can you believe it? We have already hit Week 14 in the NFL. Amazing. There was some other news, and I'll get to some more NFL news coming up in the next segment regarding the quarterback situations for a couple of different teams. And listen, it would not be a Tuesday on the show. It would not be a day ending with the letter Y if we did not have some news about Aaron Rodgers to share on this program. We'll do that coming up too. So, the other big story that came out of the winter meetings today, and it's not getting nearly as much press and coverage as, the Aaron Judge move or the Mitch Haniger signing in San Francisco with the Giants or, any of these other stories that you want to talk about. But Rob Manfred made a very declarative statement as it relates to the Oakland A's situation in Oakland. He basically said, time's up. Time is up when it comes to the Oakland A's. And it doesn't look good right now. If you are a fan of Oakland A's baseball, if you're a fan of baseball in that market, which has a rich and proud history, World Series teams, history-making teams, and I have to say what you want about the attendance. I've been to games in that park. Their fan base is as loyal as it gets. I've talked to people. I've talked to cabbies bringing me to the ballpark there, having lived in the Bay Area. Oakland A fans are as loyal as they get. And they are the lone professional sports team left in Oakland. Everything else is on the other side of the bay now, because the Warriors left Oakland and went to San Francisco. The Raiders left Oakland and went to Las Vegas. The only thing left is the Oakland A's, and it would be devastating to that city and to that community if they were to lose the Oakland A's. I've seen what happens when, a city only has one professional sports team and they lose it. Go and look at Hartford, Connecticut. It was decimated after they lost the Whalers. And Oakland may not realize it, but if they lose the A's, it is going to decimate so many jobs and so many people in that city. Sports teams are their own economy within some of the markets they reside in. And I think it would be crushing if the A's were to leave to go to Las Vegas. So here's what's going on. Commissioner Rob Manfred says the A's will have their relocation fee waived if they decide to move to Las Vegas. And this is the year where they basically have to decide, because the A's lease in Oakland expires after the 2024 season. And unless they start building something tomorrow, I don't know how they'd even have a ballpark ready to play in Las Vegas for 2024 or 2025. I don't know how they'd get that done. I mean, if you're talking after the 2024 season, if they don't start building something soon, if they don't put shovels in the ground, we're almost at 2023. How are they going to be able to play in 2025 in Las Vegas? There's a AAA team in Las Vegas, so I don't know how you move them around and make that schedule work. I mean, it's a real nightmarish situation right now. The A's have played at the Coliseum since 1968. Now, there was originally talk of the team moving to Fremont and then San Jose. And then in 2018, it was announced that the team had a waterfront location for a new ballpark at Howard Terminal. And I've seen the area. It's a great spot. It's basically opposite Oracle Park where the Giants play. It's just on the other side of the bay, right on the water. But the city of Oakland screwed up, missed a deadline in October for getting a deal done with the A's on the $12 billion project. So I don't know at this point how the two sides get anything done. But Manfred said, quote, "We're past any reasonable timeline for the situation in Oakland to be resolved." There's more to it. We'll get to it coming up on the other side. We'll also get into a couple of stories involving quarterbacks in the NFL, including Aaron Rodgers. Stick around. More to do. Thanks for hanging out with us tonight. Boy, this Antonio Brown story is nuts. We haven't talked about it all week because I really didn't want to talk about it until it had a conclusion, but you're starting to worry for this guy's well-being. I'll get into it in a couple of minutes. So to just put a fine point on the baseball stuff we were just talking about. So essentially where we are right now is the A's could wind up in Vegas if they don't get their situation figured out. The other big baseball stadium situation is the one in Tampa Bay with the Rays. And anybody who knows anything about baseball knows the Rays play in a dump, Tropicana Field. And there had been talk for years about splitting games at Montreal, moving the team potentially, all these different things. But now it looks like they're getting somewhere with the idea of keeping the team in Tampa and getting them a first-class major league facility that also helps the economic situation with the team. As you know, they never spend any money. Principal owner Stuart Sternberg says he's trying to do everything he can at this point to get a facility done. Tampa Bay announced last week it had submitted a bid to redevelop Tropicana Field and surrounding land on the edge of downtown St. Petersburg. So there is the possibility of the Rays at least trying to get it figured out. Seems like there's much more cooperation between the city and the team as far as that is concerned. All right, move away from the baseball. Again, we're all just sitting around waiting to see what Aaron Judge decides to do. And frankly, until we have news on that, we're all just kind of waiting around anyway. So go back to the NFL here and talk about some big quarterback stories. I mean, we all thought yesterday Jimmy Garoppolo was done for the season and Brock Purdy was going to be this team's starting quarterback, or Josh Johnson, who the team signed to join the team, or maybe they would go get Baker Mayfield. All right, there's news on both of these things. Let's start with Mayfield first. He was waived, obviously, by the Carolina Panthers. So on waivers, he has reportedly been awarded to the Los Angeles Rams. So they put in a claim on him. It depends on what your record is. Whoever puts claims in on him, the team with the worst record that puts in a claim on him winds up getting him. That wound up being the Los Angeles Rams. So according to Michael David Smith of Pro Football Talk at NBCSports.com, Mayfield could play as soon as Thursday night for the Rams, who right now have John Wolford at the quarterback position. He got hurt. Matthew Stafford is hurt. So Baker Mayfield wasn't out of work very long. A lot of people wondered, who's going to sign Baker Mayfield? Is this the end for Baker Mayfield? Well, it's not the end of him for now, because Baker Mayfield is going to get an opportunity to get some emergency reps for a Los Angeles Rams team that is desperate at the quarterback position. So the Rams will pay the remainder of his salary for the season. That's $1.35 million, and then he'll be a free agent when the year ends. And the Rams are obviously invested in Matthew Stafford after he won a Super Bowl for him last year. Everything they dealt away for him to the Lions to make that deal happen. But Mayfield could wind up being a solid number two behind Stafford. And who knows? Maybe you back him up for a couple of years. Stafford doesn't strike me as a guy that's going to play incredibly long. He's won his Super Bowl. He did what he came to do in Los Angeles. I don't think he's going to be there a long time. So I don't think it's unreasonable to think that if Mayfield kind of sits back a little bit and is patient, he could wind up ultimately being the starter in Los Angeles for the Rams. Not this year, not next year, but maybe the year after. You know, and there's plenty of proof. There's plenty of stories in this league of guys who are starting quarterbacks, and I don't want to say bomb out of the league, but struggle and in their first go-around as a starting quarterback. The case study for it right now is Geno Smith. who everybody basically thought was done in the league after his time in New York with the Jets, bounced around, backup quarterback, backed up Eli Manning in New York. I'm sure he was a couple other places that I can't remember, but then obviously winds up backing up Russell Wilson in Seattle, gets some game time, shows he can still play. The team decides, we're going to move on from Russell Wilson. Everybody thinks it's going to be a down year for Seattle. They're damn near on the verge of making the playoffs this year. And Geno is arguably comeback player of the year in the league. So it all depends on what you do with your time when you're not a starter in this league. And there's, again, Josh McCown is a guy that comes to mind. Charlie Batch, Mike Maddox. There's been a whole slew of Tommy Maddox. Sorry, not Mike Maddox. Tommy Maddox. There's been a whole slew of guys in this league that first go-around didn't go well, and then they wind up becoming a starting quarterback later in their careers, sometimes later than others, and you wind up really doing some things. Baker Mayfield is still young. If he's committed and wants to get better, he's going to have an opportunity. Playing behind a guy like Matthew Stafford, who's a pretty good quarterback. So that's what's going on as far as the Mayfield situation in Los Angeles going to the Rams. That means he's not going to the San Francisco 49ers, who, according to Kyle Shanahan, didn't really sound like they were all that interested in signing him anyway. So the story in San Francisco is now Jimmy Garoppolo might wind up coming back this season after all. ESPN's Adam Schefter was told by sources on Tuesday that doctors concluded Garoppolo did not suffer a Lisfranc injury to his broken left foot, will not need surgery, and if rehab goes well, he's got a chance to return in 7 to 8 weeks. Now, let's be honest about this. 7 to 8 weeks, the team has, 4 regular season games left at this point? San Francisco's 8-4. They got 5 regular season games left. And then you're talking about the playoffs. Unless they make a deep run into the postseason, and this would be a fascinating thing to watch. They could make a deep run with this team. I don't care if Brock Purdy's the quarterback or not. They could make a deep run. I still totally buy in to the 49ers as a Super Bowl contender, as in they could contend to get to the Super Bowl. However, with that being said, if you got to, let's say, conference championship weekend, and that's when you're eligible to get Jimmy Garoppolo back. If Brock Purdy, this is so far out, it's almost fantastical to have this conversation. It's pie in the sky crazy. But remember the date, Tuesday, December 6th, 8:48 p.m. Pacific time, if we're talking about this potentially taking place. Jimmy Garoppolo available to play conference championship game, let's say against Dallas or Philadelphia or whoever. Garoppolo's available to play, but Brock Purdy's played so well. 7th round pick. Brock Purdy has been so good that you decide we're going to start him instead of Jimmy Garoppolo. It almost seems unfair to Garoppolo at that point, doesn't it? Like, this guy's going to work to get himself back from injury in 7 to 8 weeks. And if that 7th or 8th week happens to be the conference championship game, is Jimmy Garoppolo even going to be able to play? Will the team just decide to stick with Brock Purdy? What would you do? Sports can be cruel sometimes. And in the case of Jimmy Garoppolo and his injury woes that have persisted throughout his career, it just, in some ways, it seems absolutely cruel and unfair. But that's where we are. We'll have to wait and see what happens. Okay. Last but not least, our Aaron Rodgers story of the week. A lot of people are wondering what the future holds for Aaron Rodgers as it relates to this year. If the team loses another game and is essentially out of playoff contention, will we start to see the call for Jordan Love made. But even beyond that, let's just say Rodgers finishes out the year. What does it mean for Aaron Rodgers and the idea of him coming back next year? Well, people are starting to be asked that question. Rodgers has called whether he'll return a, quote, mutual decision. And Mike Florio at Pro Football Talk at NBCSports.com says the future of Aaron Rodgers is something that Matt Floor would like to see continue in Green Bay. In a previously scheduled Monday meeting with reporters, the general manager, Ryan Gutekunst, deferred discussion on it. Quote, certainly that's an offseason kind of decision, but surely, we want all our guys back, the GM told reporters. We made a big commitment to him this offseason, and so that was something, obviously, that was really important to us. But like we've talked about in the past, and this is something we'll sit down with him after the season, and it'll be something we do together and move forward that way. Gutekunst said that those discussions have not happened and that there's really no reason for it to happen. But that didn't sound, as much as Matt LaFleur sounded like he was committed, and look, he's got to sit there and deal with Aaron Rodgers in practice every day. I think he has to be that committed. If you're a Packers fan, I'm curious to hear from Packer fans on this. 1-800-224-2004 from anywhere in America. At this point, given what you've seen from Aaron Rodgers, given where this roster is, given where this team stands in the rest of the NFC picture, Christian Watson's emergence here over the last several weeks has been nice to see. But do you want Aaron Rodgers back at this point? Or is it time to move on and go to Jordan Love? I'm fascinated to hear what Packer fans and just football fans at large think about this. Aaron Rodgers in 23, yes or no? 1-800-224-2004, 800-224-2004. And again, if you want to tweet at me, go ahead and do it at the back page. He's owed another $60 million by the Packers, by the way. But I even question watching him in press conferences, watching him this past offseason when it really did not seem he was committed to getting everything he could, every last drop that he could out of this team. I'm left wondering. He says it's a mutual decision. That also means he has to decide he wants to come back and play next year. Who cares what the contract is? He's probably made $300 million in his career, if not more. So who the hell cares what his contract says, how much he's coming back for? That point is irrelevant at this juncture in this conversation. But I want to know if the Packers should bring him back at this point. And what fans actually think. I wonder if fans have gotten to the point where they're like, yeah, you know what? Let's move on. 1-800-224-2004, 800-224-2004. And keep in mind, he's won one Super Bowl. I watched the Giants and Giant fans basically push Eli Manning out the door, and he won 2 Super Bowls. So I don't know if all of Packer Nation and all of the cheeseheads are necessarily on board with the idea that Aaron Rodgers should be back next year. 800-224-2004. All right, stick around. We'll come back, wrap up the hour. I'm Jason Page. It's The Cash In on SportsMap Radio. So good. I know you. Hey. All right, a bit of a downer to end the hour with, but we got to give you all the news, right? Remember Mills Lane? He was the official during so many famous boxing matches. Used to say, "Let's get it on." Mills Lane has passed away, sadly. The legendary boxing official, legendary boxing referee, passing away, at the age of 85. I want to get that right. Jim Krajewski of the Reno Gazette-Journal said Mills Lane's son Tommy said he died in Reno, Nevada after he spent a week in hospice care. Apparently his health was in significant decline. It happened quickly, and he was comfortable and surrounded by his family. He suffered a stroke 20 years ago, and reportedly that's where things started to go badly for him. You might recall, he after his days were done in the ring, he actually briefly had a TV show. He was Judge Mills Lane. Talk about a guy that maxed out his abilities. Rest in peace, Mills Lane. All right, another hour of the Cash-In is right around the corner. I got to talk about Deion Sanders. We'll do that. Stay with us. It's the Cash-In on SportsMap Radio. of a Tuesday/Wednesday edition of the show. Good for you to be with us. 1-800-224-2004, 800-224-2004. Available on Twitter, at The Back Page. Again, on Twitter, at The Back Page. Would you want Aaron Rodgers to be your starting quarterback if you are the Packers next year? I'm not talking about going to another team, if you'd want him if he was a free agent or anything like that. What would you do if you were the Green Bay Packers? Because you had Matt LaFleur basically saying, yeah, we want Aaron back. Actually, he said, we want all our players back, which was kind of non-committal. And then you have the GM of the team saying, we'll just talk about this another time. Can we just talk about something else? So that doesn't sound like, a guy who's committed to bringing back Aaron Rodgers. Now, again, he might just be playing coy and trying to decide what he wants to do. But I thought it was very intriguing to see how both sides. Aaron Rodgers says it has to be a mutual decision. So I don't know what you guys think. 1-800-224-2004 from anywhere in America. 800-224-2004. We've all watched how he's played this year. The injured thumb, that becoming an issue that people have talked about over the last few weeks. Team's decision not to start Jordan Love when they could have simply rested or gotten surgery on the thumb if needed for Aaron Rodgers, and instead they decided to play an injured Aaron Rodgers rather than play Jordan Love, which again speaks volumes to me about what they think of Jordan Love, which I don't think is necessarily fair because we haven't gotten really any sort of sampling to make a decision on him yet. Let me know what you think. I got to get into Deion Sanders. I didn't talk about him much. But Deion's already making news in Colorado with the Buffaloes. I got good news and bad news when it comes to Deion Sanders. I'll give them both to you on the other side. Final hour. We're just getting started. The Cash In on SportsMap Radio. All right. We press forward on this Tuesday/Wednesday edition of the show. Hey, if you miss anything from our show, make sure to download the Cash In podcast. As a matter of fact, don't even download it. Just go and subscribe. Any of our shows are available in a condensed form. We take 3 or 4 of the best segments from the show, and we put it in the Cash In podcast, available on all of your major podcasting platforms. Again, the Cash In podcast, it's available almost right after the show ends. And then you have the ability to catch everything you missed. Usually our interviews are in there. A couple of my soliloquies from throughout the show are also in there. So go and check that out. All right. 1-800-224-2004 is the phone number, 800-224-2004. And again, you can hit me up on Twitter at the back page as we move through the program. So I kind of kept my powder dry as it related to Deion Sanders on yesterday's shows. We did mostly NFL and a little bit on the baseball winter meetings and Aaron Judge and all that good stuff. But we got to talk about, Deion Sanders going to Colorado. First, let me say this. I can't speak to how good of a football coach Deion Sanders is based on what he did at Jackson State. I mean, as much as we may all want to get gaga and crazy about what this team did under his leadership at Jackson State, and I mean, they had a terrific year, and there's no getting around it. I mean, go and look at, the record. What'd they lose? Once the entire year? I think so. And all of that's great. But he's stepping up in class in a big way. And, when you get to the level he's going to now, the recruiting game gets even bigger. It gets more important. And you're not just competing, against, some of these smaller schools that he's been competing with during his time in, FCS. Now you're rising up to FBS. You're in the Pac-12, and you're trying to convince kids. And great, I guarantee you, there's kids finishing high school right now who barely have any idea who Deion Sanders is, that have to go and Google him. I mean, Deion Sanders' last NFL game, let's see. Deion Sanders' last NFL game was, 2005. So you're talking about kids that are literally getting ready to graduate high school right now that were 1 or 2 years old, if not younger, or not even born yet when Deion Sanders played his last game in the NFL. And let's remember, he basically was done at the end of 99 with the Cowboys, played for a year with the Redskins the following year, and then he played 04-05 for the Baltimore Ravens. So you're talking about a guy whose career was long done. And I get that there is still some obvious attachment by guys who love professional football and respect the game of professional football and understand the history of professional football. But to just automatically assume that he can go to Colorado and duplicate the success he had at FCS Jackson State, you might wind up being sorely disappointed. I'm of the wait-and-see approach. I think it's great what he did at Jackson State. I think college athletics and the NFL and professional football as a whole need more black coaches. And I think players need to be surrounded by more guys that look like them and understand them and understand their plight and understand what they're going through at home and understand what they're going through, as a kid in school that is black. I think all of that stuff matters. But in terms of the X's and O's and the coaching aspect of Deion Sanders now moving up in class from FCS to FBS, everybody's got to pump the brakes on this and realize this is not going to happen overnight. And I get the fact that there's a transfer portal, and he's going to come in and bring some of his own guys and some of the athletes that might be at other schools that might want to transfer, and some guys that are at Colorado that may wind up transferring out. So the way this roster looks, a lot of times the way it used to work in college football, when a new coach came in, players were hamstrung. They were locked into having to stay to school. Otherwise, they'd have to sit out a year. Well, guess what? That's not the case anymore. It's the Wild West, so to speak. And players can just come and go as they please now. And that opens up a whole bunch of possibilities. You might get, some of these guys going into the transfer portal. I mean, DJ Ugalay out of Clemson says, I'm going into the transfer portal. Or Drew Pine out of Notre Dame, the quarterback for Notre Dame all year, might say, you know what, I want to go play at Colorado. Maybe Deion Sanders can convince him to come. Maybe some of that crazy NIL money that's floating around out there finds its way into these kids' pockets, and let's not pretend that stuff isn't happening, because it is. Boosters of programs and all this stuff, finding car dealerships that'll go and sponsor these kids, and then they wind up at, the school that you're hoping they go to. This stuff is happening, so let's not pretend it isn't. Now, I'm not saying it's happening exclusively with Deion Sanders or anybody else, but it's happening around college football. So what's to say in that situation that Deion Sanders can't lure some really talented guys? And Colorado's a dumpster fire right now. So anything they do next year that's of consequence, or anything they do next year that is of a successful tone, is going to resonate with that fan base. But it's going to take time. And that's the kind of interesting thing here. See how quickly Deion Sanders was a comet at Jackson State. Deion Sanders wasn't there very long if you go and look at his time coaching at Jackson State. He was there for 2 years. Got there in 2020, he leaves in 2022. How long do you think he's going to be at Colorado? This is a guy, if you even look at his NFL career, he played for 5 different teams. This isn't a guy that stays at one place very long. And in college football, it could take a long time to get a program to a certain level. And you just wonder, is Colorado another stepping stone for him en route to wherever he's going to wind up at some point in his career? Anyway, he's already making a statement. He reportedly has pulled a scholarship from a 3-star recruit. And you have to pardon me. My sympathy quotient for guys who get their scholarships pulled now, years ago, I would have felt really bad for a kid who lost his scholarship. Those days are done because of the transfer portal and the ability to sort of move around at will if you're some of these players, and the NIL money and all these different things. I no longer feel sympathetic towards guys who lose their scholarship when a coach decides to leave or gets fired and a new coach comes in. Guess what? Welcome to the real world. It happens in every profession. Happens in my profession. It happens in the day-to-day office lives of people. This stuff happens all the time. You guys want to be treated like professional athletes? You want to be compensated? All those things sound great. Well, now, guess what? Welcome to that world. Carson Mott thought he had his next school lined up. He was going to be playing for the Colorado Buffaloes. 3-star recruit from California. Highly touted. Said, quote, I just spoke to the new Colorado staff and was informed they would not be honoring my commitment. I am officially reopening my recruitment. His commitment to the school came on June 13th when the team had a different head coach. And Sanders has made it clear. Coach Prime, I should say, has made it clear he's bringing in some of his own guys, and other guys can hit the transfer portal if they want to. I think Mott's going to land on his feet, though. He's got other commitments or had other offers from Fresno State, UNLV, Nevada, and plenty of other programs. So we'll see if Carson Mott gets an opportunity to play somewhere else and where that winds up being. Hopefully he plays against Colorado at some point. He's a defensive end out of Simi Valley High School. So we'll wait and see. But Coach Prime already kind of shaking things up. All right. We got to get back to our live betting game of the night, which is Dallas and Denver. 230.5 was the number. We said over. 1:33 to play in the fourth quarter. Dallas leads Denver 111-109. So we are flirting with the number, 230.5. We'll see what happens in that game. Stick around. Come back and join us, won't you? It's the Cash In on SportsMap Radio. Huh? Wow. Mean mugging. Wow, what a wild finish to this Nuggets-Mavericks game tonight in Denver. Bruce Brown hits a three for Denver to give them a 112-111 lead, and then the Mavericks come back just seconds later and get a three of their own to make it 114-112. We had the over at 230.5. So it's going to come right down to the wire. Might still hit that number. Dorian Finney-Smith. Luka Doncic with the assist. And Finney-Smith had a wide open look, and he was able to hit the shot 27 feet away. Has not been a big scoring night from Doncic. In fact, he shot it terribly. It's just 5 of 17, 22 points, but still has a triple-double, 10 rebounds, 12 assists. He's doing other things to help this team, and he threw a beautiful behind-the-back pass to Dorian Finney-Smith to hit that shot. Just to close the book on what I was saying about Deion Sanders, and I didn't even get into this aspect of it. You know, it's one thing to be coaching in FCS and recruiting guys and getting some good players to come and play for you. You're now recruiting against legends of the sport. And it just makes it very difficult. It makes it very challenging as a college coach, you know, flashing the Deion bling and Super Bowl rings or any of that stuff. It's all great, but you're going into the same living room as Nick Saban, who's got a whole lot more bling to show, and Dabo Swinney, and all these other college football coaches who at the FBS level have already proven their mettle. And, you know, all that flashy rhetoric and the Coach Prime stuff, all that looks great. But still remains to be seen whether or not he's going to be able to lure these players into coming to play. And that's what it comes down to at the collegiate level. Can you get guys to come and play for you? Nikola Jokic had 2 free throws to tie the game. He only made 1. Practice your free throws, kids. Uncle Jason always tells you. Got to make your free throws. So Jokic goes 1 of 2 from the line. It's 114-113. We need the game to go over 230.5. Spencer Dinwiddie hits the first free throw after being fouled by the Nuggets to try and stop the clock and get the ball back. So now you're talking about 115-113. Another free throw to come. This thing's going to come right down to the wire. I mean, this is the true definition of a sweat. That's what you get. But 230.5 was the number that we looked at, I think, early in the third quarter. So Dinwiddie makes both free throws, and now Denver trails 116-113 with about 11 seconds left to go in the fourth quarter. We'll see if they can get this thing into a situation where, well, they might have to go and shoot free throws. Who knows? So Denver's going to have to shoot free throws. So we're at 230 now, 116-114. Do we get one more free throw and win the live bet? What do we say? Come on. Does he miss it intentionally? I have a feeling we're going to win this bet, though. Yeah, makes them both. There you go. We're winners. Austin Rodriguez. Sound the sirens. We're winners, baby. 116-115. The game's not over yet, by the way. 230.5 was the live bet. We are now at 231. Congratulations to anybody who took part in our live bet. We have won 3 straight. Very cool. 1-800-224-2004, 800-224-2004. I meant to get into this last night, and I didn't get a chance to. But frankly, I've wanted to talk about it for a few days because we've sort of left it alone. But you get the sense that this Antonio Brown story doesn't have a happy ending in sight. Now, we've talked about it a little bit, but the former Buccaneer receiver is believed to still be inside his home in Tampa. Police are waiting for him to turn himself in peacefully after failing to take him into custody last week. it's been at least 5 days that police have been waiting to arrest him. An arrest warrant was issued on Thursday. Police arrived at his house to try and get Brown to come outside so they could take him into custody on this misdemeanor battery charge. But Tampa police said that Brown refused to communicate with officers or open his door, despite them using a megaphone to try to convince him to come out. There's just no happy ending to this story. And again, I don't want to say I feel bad for Antonio Brown because he's made a lot of bad decisions in his life, and there are clearly issues that go into the mental health realm that have impacted some of the poor decisions that Antonio Brown is making in his life right now. But when you get guys that are, basically refusing to come out of the house and, holding themselves up inside whatever home they're living in, there's no possible way. There is no possible way this thing ends well for Antonio Brown. And you just hope there's somebody somewhere that can get through to Antonio Brown at this point that can help to sort of turn him in the right direction. We're talking about misdemeanor battery charge. We're not talking about something that's going to send him to prison for the rest of his life. It may not send him to prison at all. But as an organization, the people around Antonio Brown, and when I say organization, I'm talking about the people in his life, have all been, these sycophantic suck-ups that have just been along for the ride for so long. And you get the sense that that's how we've gotten to the place where we are for Antonio Brown. It's really sad. It is. No matter what you think of Antonio Brown and some of the bad decisions he's made and some of the terrible things he's said, all of that, you still hope there's some sort of redemption story here for him. That he can get this thing figured out, that some light bulb goes off in his head, that he just turns himself in peacefully. Because right now, it doesn't feel like this story is going in that direction. We'll keep an eye on it. We'll obviously let you know if there's any updates in the story. One more NFL note, and then we'll get into some hockey in the next segment with Dennis Bernstein. If you love hockey, Dennis Bernstein is your guy. We'll go around the league with him. Devils, how big of a surprise are the Devils? They have 4 losses all year. I mean, they've been out of this world good. We'll get into it with Dennis Bernstein in a second. The Eagles on Tuesday making news. They put Robert Quinn, their defensive standout that they got from the Bears. He goes on injured reserve because of a knee injury. Had a scope done, apparently what they saw they didn't like. So he's done for the rest of the regular season. Eagles are going to win the NFC East. If I'm them, I just get themselves right for the playoffs. And when you look at the schedule and who they play the rest of the way, the schedule does get a little more challenging, but you still have to like the position the Eagles are in. They can afford to put him on IR and get him right for the postseason. So just as they get Jordan Davis back, the defensive lineman, the rookie, played this past weekend against the Titans. They've now lost Robert Quinn for the remainder of the regular season. There is hope. Tom Pelissero of NFL Media saying that there is hope he will be able to return for the playoffs. But not before the end of the regular season. That's what we're looking at right now. Eagles gave up a 4th rounder for him. So it tells you how valuable they thought he was. All right, we'll talk hockey on the other side with Dennis Bernstein. Does a great job for the fourthperiod.com and SiriusXM NHL Radio. Stick around for that as we continue on this Tuesday edition of The Cash-In on SportsMap Radio. All right, I got that on my side. Glad to have you with us on this Tuesday edition of the show. The telephone number, 1-800-224-2004, 800-224-2004. Feel free to tweet at me as well. Every now and then. He's a busy. Which we haven't. Glad to have you with us on this Tuesday edition of the show. The telephone number, 1-800-224-2004, 800-224-2004. Feel free to tweet at me as well. On Twitter, at The Back Page. Love to catch up with this guy every now and then. He's a busy man. Dennis Bernstein does a terrific job on the NHL, which we haven't talked about with him in a few weeks, so he joins us from thefourthperiod.com, also SiriusXM's NHL Radio, and Dennis Bernstein is our guest in our 2-for-1 tonight on the show. So, would you consider, how far ahead of schedule would you consider the New Jersey Devils at this point with where they are at 21-4, this insane run that they're on?
Well, JP, when you draft two centers first overall, at some point the team needs to be good. And now the team is very good. So I would say that they should have had progression over last season, but not to play 827-point percentage hockey. Like, they are ahead of schedule with a 39 goal differential, 11-1 on the road, and they're 8-1-1 in the last 10. They're ahead of schedule. I had Carolina winning the division. Right now they got a 10-point lead. Carolina has a game in hand, although they're playing tonight in Anaheim. So, yeah, they're definitely ahead of schedule. They are now going to be in the mix for the division, for the Metropolitan Division, especially if they're cousins across the river. And the Rangers, even though they won the other night, they'll get it together. Like, this is a legit team because of their strength down the middle.
Is there anything in what you've seen from them that would give you some pause that this is an aberration of some sort?
Yeah, I think you have to look at the goaltending. And Vitek Vanacek has done everything they asked him to and more to come in from Washington. But at this point, he might win the Vezina. He's 12-2-1, 922 save percentage, 210 goals against. Like, is he going to regress to what Vitek Vanacek normally is, which is not those numbers? So I would have a little concern about the goaltending, but the defense is solid. Those fans that chanted fire the coach after 2 games, like they had to eat a lot of crow. So I think that's the only thing, JP, that I will look at, because this is definitely a better team. Like, did I think they were going to be a 40-point improvement? No. I look at the goaltending and I say, okay, is this guy really going to stand up all season? I'm not sure. If he gets injured, you have to revert back to Mackenzie Blackwood, who always seems to be hurt, and Akira Schmidt, who, even though his numbers are sterling, you can't really trust him. So I think they can stay up. I look at that goaltending. If they regress to the mean, then at that point it's going to be a more contentious race in the Metro.
Move from the Eastern Coast and the Eastern Conference to the West Coast. If it's a surprise to some that the Devils have gotten off to this big of a start, how big of a surprise is it to see the Seattle Kraken doing what they're doing?
It's a real big surprise. It's probably a bigger surprise to be second in the division. They're 6 points behind Vegas. They have 3-point games in hand. Yeah, I think it's a huge. And, they look at Martin Jones, JP, and they say, okay, this guy's having a revelation. When they look at his record, but when you look at his actual statistics in the net, he's not much better than he was in Philadelphia last season. But that shows that when you put a better defensive team in front of you, all of a sudden you start winning games when you make those saves. So nobody saw this coming. You thought improvement. You thought the offense would be better. They get Burakovsky from the Colorado Avalanche. They had Bjorkstrand, but 8-1-1 on the road. I think it's a situation, JP, where I think teams are still taking Seattle lightly this early in the season, because they're 500 at home. They're 7-5-2 in Seattle. They're 8-1-1 on the road. I think that teams are saying, okay, this is an expansion team coming in. It's a second-year expansion team, and they kind of look like the first-year Vegas Golden Knights at this point. So it's interesting. It's a great start. I don't know if it's a very good team. I want to see when this team gets hit with injuries, the goaltending worsens a little bit, because both Grubauer and Jones have not been good over the last couple of seasons. So I think the jury's still out on them. I still think that L.A., Edmonton, and Calgary can surpass them for second. But right now, Vegas looks like a clear-cut best in the Pacific right now.
I was talking about this with somebody the other day, and a friend of mine went to a game and sent me a video. Are the Vegas Golden Knights the greatest show in hockey right now? And I'm not even just talking about from the on-ice perspective in terms of wins and losses, and the fact that, here they are again having a great start to the season, 19-7, 39 points, all of that great stuff. And it's funny, their home record isn't even that great at just 7-5. But in terms of the best show on ice, are they providing really the best entertainment in hockey?
Yeah, because I think, JP, that they put entertainment in front of hockey, because they know the competition in that city for the entertainment dollar, not the sports dollar even, because the Raiders aren't really knocking anybody. They're not going to make the playoffs. So I think that's what they look at, because they have to compete with other shows on the Strip at 7:30 on a Tuesday and a Thursday and a Saturday. That's what they look for. So I think their mindset going in was going to be very different anyway. Yes, they laid on thick when they have the night facing a bad guy on the ice before the game, and the drum corps and the cheerleaders in the stands. But I think the mindset was always going to be, because Jason, I don't think they ever thought they would be this good to start. So they said, okay, how are we going to get people in the building, butts in the seats, educate people about hockey? That's what they've done. They've leaned in and they've embraced the entertainment. And you have to chuckle, because people outside of Vegas, when they see the pregame presentation, during the Stanley Cup playoffs, they're the only team where the broadcasts show the actual pregame ceremonies. So, yeah, they're doing it right. It's a great arena. I've been there millions of times. You can stay at the Park MGM, walk across the street 100 yards into the building. It's set up so much to win. They've done a great job embracing that city and galvanizing the fan base in Vegas.
Let me ask you, before I want to ask you about the Rangers, who you touched on a little while ago in concert with the story about the Devils. But I want to ask you about the Carey Price story, because I haven't talked much about it. And for as much as we talked about the insensitivity and the way Kyrie Irving handled this whole thing with the Nets that has been talked about ad nauseum now for several weeks, as frankly it should be. There's this story about Carey Price, and it's not a good look for him that, he's basically lived in Montreal for 15 years and couldn't have possibly known about the femicide that killed 14 women at Polytechnique 33 years ago, on this day. and that he decided to post his opposition to new gun control legislation that survivors of that tragedy have called for. How bad of a situation, how bad of a PR situation is it for him, for the organization? And I mean, is there some sort of parallel or comparison to be made to the Kyrie Irving situation and you know, sort of the way the organization has to go about handling this?
Well, I don't think so, Jason, because he's not playing. I think there's something that the PR hit mitigates because he's not. If he had to go into every building in Canada right now and play goal, I think that would be a mess. That would be difficult for the team to handle. It would be a huge distraction. I think the fact that he's not playing and he's injured and he may not play again, I think it kind of, it lessens the impact of what he said because he's not in the news all the time. You hadn't talked about Gary Price the entire season. Now we're talking about him. Now he insists and he's going to step back. He since he knew about the occurrence with respect to Polytechnique before he made that posting. It's sensitivity. It's not reading the room. It's not knowing, when you get involved in politics, Jason, and you're an athlete, you should stop getting involved in politics. It's as simple as that. So I think it's lessened because I can't really call the Canadians for doing that. He's not around the team. I'm sure he didn't check in with the team before he made that posting. It's wrong. He should be contrite and apologize and move on from it. He made a mistake. And that's the problem, that athletes who are used to perfection, when they make mistakes, they don't own it. They continue to double down and triple down. And that's the first thing I would do if I was Carey Price. I apologize. I really didn't realize what I was saying at this point in time. So I think that it doesn't affect the team because he's not playing on the team right now.
There isn't any sort of situation where you would see them cutting him, would you?
No, I don't think so because it doesn't matter because the salary, nobody's going to claim him. And the salary, they would have to go to his morals part of his contract to say he violated that. And I don't think that what he did with the posting is going to justify breaking your morals contract. They're not going to waive. If they waive them, he's injured. Nobody's going to pick him up. He's making $11 million a year. So they're kind of stuck there. I think that once the news cycle goes 48 hours out, people will start to forget about it and separate this from this situation. But I don't think he's in any danger of losing his contract. I don't think, given that he's injured and he makes so much money, that he's going to be a target to be released. But if you're injured, I don't even think you can release a player in the NHL if he's injured.
Talk to me about the Rangers here for a second. We were getting into it on the Devils and obviously the team on the other side of the Hudson and the Rangers, and obviously it's been a struggle for them. Are you surprised the struggles have lasted this long, and now do we have to start to accept the fact that this just is what the Rangers are this year?
Yeah, because when your goalie is all-world and he stops every puck last season, and you make it to the conference final, and this year he's just good or pretty good, that's what happens. So it's no surprise to me. They have not changed their game. And plus, Panarin didn't score a goal for, a month? So that's part of the issue. So when this team doesn't score and your goalie isn't all-world, you're going to be under 500 at home. It's not surprising to me at all. Will it change? I don't know, to be frank, because I don't think he's going to revert back to the Vezina winning trophy goalie over the next, 55 games. So they're in trouble, Jason. It's as simple as that. They don't have a lot of depth. The two big-time wingers that they drafted at the top of the draft, Lafreniere and Kakko, still haven't produced the way they thought they would. I'm not shocked they are where they are because, again, if your goalie isn't all-world, this team is going to struggle, and they're struggling. They're 12-10-5 over the last, to start. And they needed a miracle the other night to rally to get a win. So, yeah, they're in trouble at this point in time unless they make a big trade, maybe a Patrick Kane at the deadline or something like that. But right now, they're going to go as the goalie goes, and the goalie's going okay. And that's why you see this team is just an average team at this point.
The Dallas Stars have been really good. Obviously, you look at the standings, and right now they're leading in the Central Conference, 14-6, 33 points on the year. I don't know how many people knew who Jason Robertson was before the year started. A lot of people seem to know who he is right now.
The fringe fan didn't know Jason Robertson. The real fan knew Jason Robertson, knew he was dangerous, knew he scored over 30 goals on their top line. But what he's doing right now, Jason, nobody saw this coming. This is otherworldly. His goal production, he's big. And people don't know him. He's 6'3", 200 pounds, second-round draft pick. Great draft by this team. And he's part of the reason Dallas is right there. The other guy is Jamie Benn, who's really struggled over the last couple of seasons. People said it was past his prime. He's making $9 million a year. He's too slow. He's too old. He's really galvanized the team as well. But Jason Robertson is on a Connor McDavid-like scoring streak at this point in time. So, yeah, the true fan would know. The fringe fan is getting to know Jason Robertson. This is an elite goal scorer.
Are the Rangers the biggest disappointment so far of this hockey season? What, if not, who is?
I would say them and probably Columbus.
Yeah, I was just looking at Columbus. Yeah, I was just going to actually ask you about them.
Yeah, because of Johnny Gaudreau. Yeah, Johnny Gaudreau, you paid him all that money. Now, Zach Werenski's out. He's the best defenseman. He's out for the season with a shoulder injury. I would say the fact that the Rangers are out of a playoff spot right now is a little bit more surprising. You didn't think Columbus was going to win the division in the Metro. You didn't think they would be this bad, minus 29 goal differential, not getting a save from anybody. I think that would be the biggest disappointment because there was enhanced, expectations with Johnny coming in, paying him all that money. And Johnny certainly thought. Do you think Johnny thought they would be last in the East at this point? Of course not. So I think at this point, I think that's what you look at. But it's a situation, Jason, when you can't get saves from your goaltender, it doesn't matter about the rest of the team. It deflates the team. It changes momentum in the game. I've seen it here in Los Angeles where they're winning and they're a 500 team, but their goaltending's been awful. Goaltending is so key. You can't overlook that. You can't think, okay, we can maybe get by with Merzlikins or Korpisalo who's been injured. I would say Rangers 1, Columbus 2 with respect to disappointments. The rest of the bottom feeders, I didn't expect a lot from the lesser teams in the league this season.
Dennis Bernstein, check him out, thefourthperiod.com. Catch him on SiriusXM NHL Radio as well. Good to talk with you, my friend. Like I said, we've got Seattle Kraken AHL hockey coming to my hometown, my new hometown here in Palm Springs. They're opening up the new arena, not this weekend, I think, but the following weekend. I will be there, and looking forward to seeing the future of the Kraken here in the Coachella Valley.
Nothing wrong with fresh ice in the desert, Jason. Enjoy it, bud. Great talking.
Thank you. Good talking to you, my friend. Dennis Bernstein joining us on the show. Okay, let's come back, wrap up the hour next.